guys, it's Lauren here and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So this is kind of spontaneous, out of nowhere, just felt in the mood after I got ready, even though I got work soon. I thought I would give you guys just another view of my manga collection. As you can see behind me, I did do a bookshelf tour before, but it has been like a solid 2 years since then, which is crazy to me. It's just crazy. Time is crazy. But it's been 2 years since, and my manga collection has grown. It looks great, and I thought I would show you guys because, I don't know, I was just in the mood. Also, obviously, as you can see, I have a whole bookshelf underneath my manga collection, and I would be open to doing another tour of that, but I feel like, for one, I will be getting more books soon because I'm back from studying abroad, and that means I will be buying and catching up on all of the English American publications. I'm very much looking forward to that. For another, there's a lot of books in here that I definitely want to clear out because I don't see myself reading them ever again, or they just don't bring me joy in any way. So I can see myself donating that, and I just thought if I'm doing a bookshelf tour, I'll do it when I'm like done clearing out all of the rest of that stuff. But in the meantime, manga. Hello. Yeah, I guess without further ado, let's get into it. What I'll be doing, I'll be pulling them out and I'll show you what I got up here. I have it lined up in like alphabetical order, sort of. It's also sort of organized by the size of the books as well. Like my bigger manga collection is over here. They're just taller in height, and I felt like it's weird to put the taller stuff with the shorter stuff, even though I do have Blue Period here. It's a little, I don't know. There is somewhat order to this chaos, but let's just freaking get into it. So for one, Ashi Volume 14. I really like this volume because it is a period in time in which I feel like the main character goes through like a pivotal change. Oh, by the way, in case you're not familiar, this got a recent anime adaptation. I believe it was last summer, and it is a soccer anime slash manga. Highly would recommend. Really good development. I'd say it's on a similar tier to like Ace of the Diamond if I were to compare it to any other sports anime or manga that I'm familiar with. We'll definitely be consuming more. But they don't have English copies. So this copy I got when I was in Paris, and as you can see, the pages are in French. So yeah, I can like sort of vaguely read it. I kind of got it for the purpose of having the panels. I also really adore the art. I honestly would say I prefer the art of the manga over the anime, but that's probably the case for most of these things. And I'm very much awaiting an English translation physical copy. I just got this because it's a great souvenir from studying abroad, and also like it has great panels. Love the cover. There's just so much about it. Foreign releases, they have this kind of foldable thing, which I find really cool. Like that's not in any of the American published volumes. So really adore this. Cover's beautiful. Beautiful boys, some of my favorite characters within the story. And yeah, I just really adore it. Next thing I have is Banana Fish Volume 1. I believe. No, this is volume 12. I got it because Ash looks beautiful on this cover. In case you're not familiar, this is a BL gang mystery. Yeah, there's just a lot going on in this story, but if you're not familiar, like, what are you doing? Honestly, what are you doing? It's an amazing story. Can't really go too much into it without spoiling, I feel like, but I would highly recommend. It's a great romance, and it has great yet very, very tragic elements to it. Just go in emotionally prepared. That's all I will say. But I got this because, first of all, a lot of intense shit happens in this volume. Again, Ash, one of the protagonists of the story, looks fan-freaking-tastic, so I got it because I'm a simp. Next, I got Black Clover. This is volume 2. I wanted to get volume 1 because honestly, like when I first started consuming Black Clover, I consumed it through this volume of manga, and it is the second volume. I'll still like it though because the cover is sick, but obviously Asta is not on the cover, so take what you will about it. Got this when I was in London, but it's still, obviously it's like an English release, so it has like the similar binding methods that are in an English release. And yeah, it's cool, it's dope. Black Clover is one of the more famous shonen. I mean, it's not my favorite personally, but that could be saved for another video. Moving on. Blue Exorcist. If you've watched my getting into anime video, yeah, that was a long time ago, and honestly the video quality is kind of trash, but if you're interested in seeing like a more fetus version of myself talking about anime and manga, highly recommend watching it. It's one of my more popular videos on this channel. But I have Blue Exorcist. This is one of the stories that got me into anime and manga. It's excellent. It's honestly a shame that it doesn't have more of an adaptation to it, but it's whatever. There's more manga volumes, so I need to continue reading the story. But this is volume 1 and 2. It's an amazing story. It basically, like, if you're into like emo kind of demon, now that I actually have to explain the story, I don't know how to explain it, but it's very early 2000s-esque, I would say, in like the vibe and atmosphere of it. Follows this kid, Ren Okumura, and he is basically the son of, I don't even know, the son of a demon, I think? The devil, literally. I forgot exactly what his origins are, but basically he has this cool little demon powers. He has a tail. If you're weird, bit of a furry and into that, hey, this manga, this anime endorses it. So 10 out of 10 would recommend getting into it. Also, these two are brothers and their brother relationship is one of the best I've seen in anime and manga. Once again, I am endorsing that sibling relationships are some of the best things within the anime and manga genre. So 10 out of 10 recommend reading these. Okay, so I have volume 1 and volume 5 of Blue Period. These just have like amazing art in it, which is the main reason I picked it up. And it follows the story of this kid who is trying to get into art after kind of underselling his talents for a little bit. And he has a rival in it and it's cool and awesome and whatever. Honestly, I didn't finish reading this because I heard the anime adaptation was a little sideways. I don't even know if I like misremember that. I just remember this is really popular a few years ago. I never ended up reading this volume. I started getting into it by reading volume 1 and I was gonna watch the anime and I heard the anime went south. So I did not get to this, but going through this, see, this is why it's good I started this, because going through, I'm realizing that I need to finish watching and reading this. So I think I'll read this, see how I feel about this volume, and then I'll start watching the show. But yeah, would recommend if only just because the art is freaking cool. Okay, so this is one of my favorite anime mangas of all time. I will not lie. It is Bungo Stray Dogs, but this, okay, if you're like really into fandom and fanfiction in general, you know that there are always AU centered on like the protagonist and the antagonist having switched roles in society, and it's just like so interesting to read them. But this is the first time I've really seen the author like do that himself without even needing like any prompting from like the fandom itself. This is Bungo Stray Dogs Beast. If you haven't heard of it, you really need to check it out. It's basically an alternate universe where Akutagawa and Achi have alternate roles. So Akutagawa in this one ends up becoming part of the ADA, the Armed Detective Agency, and Achi ends up becoming a member of the Port Mafia. And there's a really interesting backstory to both of them. They have really sick character designs. It's also done by a different artist, which you can see kind of by this. And I adore the art. I'm gonna be real honest. It's fantastic. And in this one, obviously has Oda-kun in it. Obviously in this, he's alive, which is crazy. And yeah, the story is just as enrapturing as the main. So I would highly recommend if you're into Bungo Stray Dogs and you haven't heard of Beast, really check it out. It's amazing. It's great. The art is amazing. The story is amazing. I could rant about this all day. I need to continue reading it, to be honest, because I enjoyed these so much. Got Bungo Stray Dogs. This, I'm realizing, this volume in particular, I think has spoilers for the anime. As of right now, by the time I upload this video, it'll probably already be publishing whatever. But this arc of Bungo Stray Dogs is obviously excellent. I like it too because it has our two favorite boys on the cover, Akutagawa and Achi. And yeah, it's just really sick. There's a lot that goes on into this. If you're not familiar with Bungo Stray Dogs, basically the Bungo stands for literary dogs. So essentially, each character is based off an actual author that has written a book, and their ability is based off the book that the author has written. So for example, Dazai Osamu, he wrote No Longer Human. So Dazai, within this story, he has the ability called No Longer Human, which is explained in the story. But essentially they have really sick abilities that are based off literature, and the storyline is basically focused on like mystery, thriller, and also high amounts of action. It's really worth the watch. It's also really stimulating. Like the storyline itself is really stimulating, and the characters are really easy to adore. And again, the character designs are just simply very sick. So if you're into all of that stuff, highly recommend Bungo Stray Dogs. It's honestly, even though it's like popular, I feel like it's still underrated in a lot of things. I don't know why. Really check it out though. And this arc in particular, which is really broadcasting right now, is fantastic. So 10 out of 10 recommend. Okay, so I got volumes 1, 2, and 3 of Chainsaw Man. I got these not necessarily because I love Chainsaw Man, which it's an amazing story. Not necessarily because I love Chainsaw Man, but basically just because the art is so fucking sick. So I got 3 of the volumes back to back to back, even though I literally already watched the show itself. And I kind of want to continue the manga, even though I know like the more recent chapters are only online, I'm pretty sure. I just want to continue it because I've heard it gets really good, but also like, I'm not gonna lie, Chainsaw Man, the story itself is really depressing. Funny, but also really depressing. So I feel like I have to mentally prepare myself for like whatever other bullshit ends up going on in the story. Even though I've heard it's good, I've also heard mixed things because it's weird, but it's good. Y'all need to like choose one. Which one is it more of, good or weird? Should I continue reading it or not? I don't know. I don't know what else to say. But I don't really think I need to explain this, do I?
Okay, so anyways, this bro right here, Genji, he eats, well, fuck. Do I need to explain this? Yes, okay, so he's super fucking poor, right? This guy, he's broke as fuck.
Yeah, check it out if you haven't, and let me know if I should continue reading the manga. That's a serious inquiry. But the next thing I have is actually a light novel. I'm including it because fuck it, light novels and manga in my opinion are basically the same thing, just one has more words in it. Classroom of the Elite. Look, this light novel series is apparently very, very elite, but for some reason, it's harder for me to sit through this, and I think it's literally just because for Classroom of the Elite, there's a lot of characters I don't actually know the names of yet, and if I was reading the manga version of it, I would have a face to attach to the names, and so it would be easier for me to read this. However, hopping into this, for one, it's further along than the actual show was when I started it. I also have not watched season 2, so no spoilers within the comments. The first season was fire, and it was excellent, and I got into it. If you don't know what Classroom of the Elite is, it's a really, really good show. Highly recommend it. It's essentially a story about Ayano Koji and in this school. It's a school basically just for the elites. You go into that school in order to be conditioned in order to become the elite of the society, which means you have to learn how to manage your own funds, etc., etc. It's a school modeled on real life, essentially, which is really like the trenches, because if you're a college student like me, and you're about to enter real life because you're a senior, ooh girl, there's so much more to worry about. So essentially, each classroom is a society competing against each other to be proven as like the best society with the best strategies and everything like that. And if they become top class, I assume that they win something, which I think is basically just like them winning at life and having guaranteed happiness as soon as they graduate. So that's essentially what the story is about. And there's a lot of like really intense thriller-esque like fights and mysteries and games essentially in order to become the best, and that is essentially what this light novel series, manga series, anime series, whatever you want to call it, is about. It's freaking fantastic, honestly, it's amazing. But the light novel, it's hard for me to get into because aside from like the main cast essentially, I don't know most of the class's names, and in this series they really go into the names and the stories of each of the characters. So honestly, I just need to like look at a character sheet, figure out what is actually what, and then move on. You know what I'm saying? So it's good. Would recommend. I just need to get into reading this. This is good. This is why I need to go through this, because I don't know what I've read and what I have not read out of what I already put in my shop. So in case you're not familiar, this is Dan Da Dan. It is a manga series that is going to get an anime adaptation, which I'm pretty sure is why I picked it up. I also saw posters around some of the areas I've been at, and I was like, yo, that looks sick. Like, look at the art. The art looks really sick. The character is a woman, and it is seinen. It has to be seinen. There's no fucking way it's not a seinen. It can't be a shonen. The story itself is about basically like really horny, supernatural, like extraterrestrial and ghost-like figures that are influencing these two. And I don't know how to go more into it other than that, but yeah. Eventually, like, they both end up getting powers. One of them is trying to prove that ghosts is real. One of them is trying to prove that aliens are real. They both figure out that they are both real, and they are both very strange and very horny entities within the universe. As a result, they end up getting powers in like the weirdest way. It's also sort of a romance. It's a really interesting intertwining of genre, I will say. So if you're ready for that weird catapult of a roller coaster, I would highly recommend Dan Da Dan. I have Death Note. I don't really need to explain this. I don't need to explain this. What the? No. Demon Slayer. I got these before the latest seasons came out. This one is about the ending basically of the Swordsmith arc. It has Mitsuru on the cover. She looks fantastic as per usual. And this volume, this is volume 15. It comes right after this volume. This goes into the following arc, which is basically like the Hashira training arc. I believe that's what it's called. It's really good. So 10 out of 10 would recommend, and I might honestly continue reading because I know we're not going to get the next season for a while, I don't think. So I would highly recommend reading it. As per usual, Demon Slayer art goes really, really hard. I don't feel the need to explain the premise of this either because Demon Slayer is one of the most popular animes of today. So yeah, I mean, fuck, you can go read the manga. I think it slaps. Fruits Basket, amazing. This is obviously a shoujo. It's one of the best shoujos. I don't really need to explain what this is, to be honest. Girl meets zodiac family of people that transform into animals upon being hugged by the opposite sex. Yeah, I don't know. It could just go crazy. It go crazy. There's nothing else to say. Just go crazy. Food Wars. Food Wars is an awesome little tale about, I don't even know, just dudes that know how to cook really, really well. I like this volume because Eren Anakari is like probably my favorite tsundere in all of anime. And eventually, like, this character trope does get tiresome, but Eren Anakari, I'm sorry, I'm a simp for her character. She's freaking amazing. She's like basically the GOAT of the series, aside from Yukihira. So they're both basically rivals within this cooking school. Food Wars is a really good series. I highly recommend it. If you're ever hungry or in need of good vibes or just like a good cast of characters and like the most nonsensical environment possible while also enjoying the food, talent, fighting elements, I would say check out this. It's set in high school. It's a really random culmination of a ton of different genres, but I would 10 out of 10 would recommend this. Also, whenever I watch the show, I suddenly feel like I'm the fucking best chef in the world and I feel like trying new things. Yeah, and it just brings me happiness. I feel like I rewatch the show like annually. So I got this volume. It's also set during one of the best arcs of the show, Full Metal Alchemist. I will admit I have not watched the original anime or Brotherhood, and I really should because everyone always recommends it. It's just for some reason it's hard for me to get past like the first 5 episodes. I always start it again and I rewatch the 5 episodes and I'm just like, I don't know if I'm as invested as I would like to be in order to continue this. It's a bad habit, I know, because good storytelling is good storytelling. I need to continue and give it a chance. I just have not been able to. I'm sorry. So that's the situation with this. Let me tell you the story behind this. This is Given, and I picked this up not knowing that it was BL. When I first got it, I saw BL on the cover and I was like, oh, that's a publishing company. That's so interesting. And while it is, it's also a whole genre of anime in which boys love boys. And it's honestly amazing. I picked this up because I am a sucker for any sort of band story. I don't know if it's because I grew up in the early 2000s and it was like literally shoved down our throats all the time. But I saw this cover and I was like, fuck yeah, this is for me. The characters are amazing in it. It's basically about this kid named Matthew who lost his friend in a really sad way recently. And his friend, one of the things he left him was basically his guitar. He's trying to learn how to play it. So then he ends up meeting the other protagonist in the story and they end up joining together and Matthew ends up joining his band. And it's basically a story of overcoming grief and also just finding love again. And I would highly recommend it if you're into music, boys loving boys, and found family. It's really great. I 10 out of 10 recommend it. So I have this volume and then I also have volume 2. I've read the entire series. Basically, it's just I didn't feel like buying the entire series, so here we are. Yes, indeed. Okay. So as you can see, these are all Haikyuu volumes. And if you're not familiar, Haikyuu is my favorite anime series of all time. It is a sports anime about boys playing volleyball that follows the story of the protagonist, Hinata Shoyo, and then also Kageyama Tobio. And it's an amazing story. 10 out of 10 recommend. I won't even go into it. My endorsement is that it's my favorite series of all time. And then also I got one of them in Paris, so it also has like the cool little flap to it. It's smaller, and I have this exact volume actually in the stack, but I need to get it in French. I need to get it in French just for the sake of it. Okay, so I got Yasha, and this is a really old volume, as you can see. It's a really old one that I found in a bookstore in New York, and I saw it and I was like, I gotta have this because this is one of the animes that got me into watching anime. Yeah, I had to get one of these. Jujutsu Kaisen needs no introduction. Look at my boy on the cover. Boy eats finger. Boy ends up becoming the vessel for an 1,000-year-old curse. Boy meets cool people that also are able to use curse energy, Jujutsu sorcerers. It's a good read. This is everything I have for My Hero Academia. I'm pretty sure I actually read My Hero the first time I did a manga reading vlog, like the first time I read manga. This is what I got from then, and it has sentimental value, obviously, because I read this before I watched the show, and I immediately start watching the show, and I just got hella emotionally invested, especially in the first 3 seasons. Like, this is a banger. This is a certified classic. And then I ended up getting this volume as well. This is volume 22. I think this is just the classes warring, and at the time I was curious because I was curious about the characters, but honestly, not the best arc in the series. And then I have this. Ooh. This needs no words. This needs no words whatsoever. This is a banger. This is covered in the last season, so 10 out of 10 recommend. Now let's proceed to the second half of my shelf. Hello. This is where all the tall beauties are at, and this is also where the rest of the volumes are. It's from M to Y. So I just don't have a lot in that section, obviously. But let's start with, let's start with finishing the shorter ones. So I got My Hero Academia, Vigilantes, and I got it because I was just curious about the vigilante world. Am I invested in the story? Not necessarily, but it's good to have the first volume, so at least I got like my toe dipped into whatever the hell is going on outside of that UA high school. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's see what other people are going on with. Because I will say, like, one thing I wish there was a bit more of in My Hero Academia is in terms of world building, in terms of discrimination, like who's accepted, who's not, yada yada yada. We get that a little bit with the characters. I still desired more, so I read this. If you want some of that, this is perfect for it. Persona 5. I honestly got this because I saw that one scene, and I will insert like a little clip of it of like this man watching her crossing the street like a boss. It was crazy. I don't know. I just like the romantic tension in it, so I started it. Also, I heard so much about Persona 5 before because it is a famous game, obviously. And while I am not a gamer, I would like to partake, but I don't know. I just haven't started yet. I started reading it. Is it the best story ever? No. Is the game probably better? Yes. Will I eventually play the game in the future? To be determined. Skip and Loafer Volume 6. I got this recently. If you are not familiar with this, this was a manga that was adapted into an anime very recently, literally within like the last like anime season. Would I recommend it? Highly, highly, highly. It is an amazing shoujo. It just follows like the life of this girl who is coming from the countryside with the hopes of attending this Tokyo high school and becoming a politician so that she can help out her hometown, right? And she ends up meeting this dude who helps her on her first day because while she wanted her first day to go perfectly, that's obviously not what happens. Hello. It's high school. I really like it. The story is really endearing. I would say like I've watched a lot of shoujos honestly, and I feel like the story is just an exception in a lot of ways because it does prioritize different from any other shoujo I've watched because more of the scenes are like understated, yet they still have a high emotional impact. So if you're looking for something like that, something that's cozy, something that would like get your heart moving, I would say watch or read Skip and Loafer. I'm gonna continue reading the manga because I'm just invested in their story. Whenever I read it, I just have a smile on my face. I have a smile on my face. It's great. It's great. It's an amazing story. 10 out of 10. Recommend. Next, and I'm gonna need you hoes not to judge me now, I have Sword Art Online Progressive, volumes 1 and 2. And yeah, Sword Art Online, it was amazing the first half of the first season, and then things took a bit of a turn. I decided to outright Progressive because Sword Art Online is admittedly one of the animes that got me into anime. I was really invested in the story before it got all weird, and yeah, I can't. It really is the anime that made me discover that I do not fuck with harem animes. That's yet to be fully determined though, because I've yet to give quintessential quintuplets a chance. But like, I did start reading Progressive though, because it is from Asana's perspective, and Asana is one of my favorite characters from the series. And yeah, honestly, it's pretty good. I would arguably say it's a bit better than like the first Sword Art Online. I think it just goes more into depth about the background of the characters and what led them to certain parts. That is the good thing about doing like a second perspective adaptation of the story you've already done, is that it gives you room to explore the world that you've already explored a little bit, and also get more in depth in the moments that like we didn't get to see. So that's basically Progressive. There are some movies of it. I have not watched it yet though. I don't know if it's on Crunchyroll or not, but I am curious to watch it and see it animated. Tulip Tanaka Khan, volume 2 and 8. This series slaps. I don't know if people appreciate this enough. I almost didn't get this once because the art style is just so like different from what I'm used to. So the art style, even if it's incredibly different, will grow on you eventually if the story is good. In terms of that, I'm saying this as a non-artist. Like, if you're an artist, you probably get a different art style, probably just a unique take on something. It's great. For me, that's just like the casual reader, entertainment wise. This kind of thing was hard for me to get into at first, but once I read the first 2 volumes, I was like, wait, this is kind of a banger. This kind of slap, I don't know. It's the story of this girl kind of like discovering that there are, what is it, the 7 mysteries of the school. And this guy is one of them. He's a little ghost and he has a dark past that we are not aware of yet. She ate like a fish gill or some shit that basically made her capable of seeing the 7 wonders of the school, whatever. And so she could go on adventures with hanako-kun, which hence why it's called Tulip-bound hanako-kun. Don't question the Tulip-bound part, you will figure it out once you watch the show. It's an amazing story. I was really surprised by how good it was, and that's why I got volumes of it. And I honestly will probably buy more because I don't see it getting a second season anytime soon, unfortunately. But it's definitely a story worth checking out. The last ones of the shorties. If you're a person of culture, you already know. Yona of the Dawn, bitch. Yona of the Dawn. Look, look, look. This is a banger. This is a banger. If you're not already aware, this is a story about a princess named Yona. She ends up being ousted out of her kingdom because of a plot to kill her and her father. And so she's been betrayed by her fiance, the one that she thought was like completely trustworthy, the one she thought she would marry and fall in love with. It was crazy. And as a result, she's forced to flee her kingdom and go on a quest in order to find 4 dragons. And so that's basically what the story's about. It's definitely more than that. It's just been a while since I've read the story, so forgive me if my summary was not the best. However, this is totally worth the read. I highly recommend it. If you're into action, if you're into romance, if you're into found family, if you're into all of that, very, very good. Also, this motherfucker right here, yeah. Watch for him too. Also watch for her. Watch for all of them. All the characters are superb. It's amazing. Moving on to the big boys, we got 86. This is a show about some young kid soldiers who are forced to run and arm these like robot contraption things. The whole point is they are being used because of a certain genetic thing that makes them different from people with white hair, and as a result they are basically being exploited in war. And she is trying to change it. Basically, she's trying to get to know her people that are under her command, the 86, that is what they're called, and they end up forming a bit of a bond, and they have to go through rough shit like war. And that's basically what the story is about. Did a terrible job explaining it, but honestly it's a really good, like if you're looking for a dystopian anime, it has a bit of that Gundam mecha factor. I would highly recommend this show. Pretty good. I tried to leave the light novel, but I will admit sci-fi is a bit of my weakness in some cases because the world building is just simply like, if some of the mechanics of the world building go over my head, then I'm probably not going to enjoy it as much. And for some reason, fantasy don't have that problem. Sci-fi, yes, because it is slightly grounded in realism, and there is a lot of naming of utilities and shit like that that I just don't fully understand in this novel. But if that's not a problem for you, go ahead, read it. It's pretty good. I got Blue Lock. This don't need an introduction. I got this when the show was first coming out. I read the physical copy and I read the entire manga, and now I'm reading it chapter by chapter to this day. But this is pretty sick. It's a soccer anime. It's one of the most popular sports animes that have come out in recent years. That's pretty much all you need to know in order to start watching it. It's pretty sick. I will say it's not like any other sports anime. It has like a different kind of thing going on. It's not really about teamwork so much as it is about being like the best player on your team and trying to do that despite having to be on a team. It's a darker sports anime. Worked pretty well. Got me for sure hooked and would recommend it. I got a Bungo Stray Dogs light novel. Yeah, it's like 55 minutes. I think it's something that like could end up being adapted into a movie. I don't even entirely remember what this is about. It's just one of the Bungo Stray Dogs side quests. And I'm a big Bungo Stray Dogs fan, so I got the light novel because I was like, fuck it. We gonna read this. We gonna figure out what's going on. I got Kakagari volume 14, 13, and 12. And I love it. I love it a lot. Sorry about the accent, but I felt the need to do it. This series follows Yumiko. She's a gambling fiend and she decides to join this high school gambling school for mysterious reasons. That Ryota, the actual protagonist, at least like the guy that we can see the world through, he was like, oh, she crazy after the first day, but she ends up saving him from this system called the house pest, which happens if you end up going into debt while gambling at this school. Your life is essentially in the hands of the people in power. Yumiko saves him and then he ends up joining her in her adventures of gambling all of the top gamblers in the school, and inadvertently or avertently, we don't really know her motives, is becoming higher and higher ranked within the school. So that's what it's about. We also have the other sort of antagonist or antagonist, I guess I would say Mary Satame. She's a sick character. If you haven't seen the show, watch it. It's pretty cool, but I really enjoy it. It's one of my favorite series, and for some reason it's one of the most rewatchable series for me. Solo Leveling I got because I heard that it was being adapted into an anime, and whenever I hear this adaptation, I'm slightly interested in the story. You probably already realized, but I just pick up the first volume just to see how it is, and honestly I was super interested. It was also very expensive, but I can see why, because like, look at the art. Hello? And it honestly, it's not that expensive. I feel like it makes sense for a graphic novel, but compared to like the prices I'm used to for like normal manga and like light novels and stuff, this is a bit pricier for me, so I held off for a little bit, I ended up getting it. And look, the story's pretty good. I honestly would continue reading more. I just like am not in the mood to buy the physical copy, so maybe I'll read like the webtoon or whatever else it is that I have to do. But it's pretty sick. The story's decent. Sort of online, but darker. I'm sure you've already heard of it, but it's becoming anime very, very soon. So would recommend this. I forgot I had this. Look, I got the light novel in which the series is based off of. I got Tokyo Ghoul. This is volume 13 and this is volume 12. And this is the Tokyo Ghoul Re, and I really, really liked it because the cover art is fantastic, which is the main reason I got these. The art of Tokyo Ghoul in general is really, really good. Sometimes the panels can get a bit confusing, but honestly, if you wanted to see like what the story was supposed to be instead of like the shitty adaptation that I ended up getting, read these. That's honestly the main reason I read it, because I got super sucked into Tokyo Ghoul in the story, and I loved the characters a lot, but then the story got derailed by a whole lot of bullshit that ended up happening because of the way it was produced. So I read the actual series, and it was not a letdown. It was pretty good. I would recommend these. Last but not least, out of the big boys, I have Wand Dance volumes 1, 2, and 3. And most people probably have not heard of this. I happened to pick it up by chance, but after visiting my local comic book store, the first volume was there sitting there staring at me, and I was like, you know what, fuck it. I'm gonna read it. And read it I did, and I got super into it. This is basically a story about this kid right here, being shy and in shell. He also suffers from a stutter, and he basically just did not know how to navigate his high school life with confidence. And he ends up finding that confidence and that joy and that intrigue by seeing the dance team, specifically this one dancer named Wanda. She is on the cover of the second volume. She is a really, really good dancer. She's a prodigy. She doesn't care what other people think about her. She likes to dance, and she's one of the best at it. And she kind of helps draw him into the club because he was nervous about what to do, but it turns out that he loves dancing. And Wanda, she helps him learn how to dance and helps him find his groove and like what works for him, and also motivates him to be better. It's a hip-hop dance manga, which again, like I'm a sucker for this kind of stuff, again, because I'm an early 2000s kid and I grew up on Step Up movies and boy bands and shit like that. So whenever I see something related to that, I'm gonna be inclined to pick it up. And this is really good. I would say one of the amazing things about this art style is like the way it shows dance moves. The way it draws the dance moves is just super intense and so unique that I love it. I love it a lot. I 10 out of 10 would recommend this series. I don't even think it's getting an anime adaptation. It's one of the first mangas I picked up that has nothing to do with an anime I'm curious about watching or I've already watched. And it's also made me realize I should definitely pick up more like these. 10 out of 10 will recommend this. Okay, y'all, that is all for this video. But again, thank you guys so much for watching. That is my manga collection. If you like this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Follow me on all my medias. They're always linked down below. And I will see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.